Reprogramming the subconscious mind. Introduction. Listen carefully. Your mind has been programmed since childhood, without your permission. Your life is being shaped every hour of every day by a silent system that operates beneath your awareness. It influences your decisions before you make them, your reactions before you feel them, and your behaviors long before you consciously choose them. This system is your subconscious mind, an internal operating code built from repetition, emotion, habit, memory, and identity. Most people move through life being controlled by it. You are here to reverse that dynamic. The subconscious is not mysterious. It is not spiritual guesswork. It is a pattern-generating machine governed by neuroplasticity, emotional imprinting, and the stories you allow yourself to repeat. Every time you think the same thought, rehearse the same belief, react the same way, or repeat the same habit, your brain reinforces the pathway that keeps that pattern alive. The problem is simple. Most of these patterns were installed without your consent. They came from childhood, culture, trauma, imitation, and survival. They served you once, but they no longer match the identity you intend to step into. Transformation begins when you stop treating your subconscious as a mystery and start treating it as a system you can influence, direct, and recondition. You are not here to ask for change. You are not here to convince yourself to feel different. You are here to issue commands to your internal architecture and install a new identity by design. Over the next hour, you will work through the 9 core mechanisms that reprogram the subconscious mind. These are not soft ideas or motivational cliches. They are the actual levers your subconscious uses to encode meaning, form habits, and construct identity. And if you feel like you are repeating patterns that keep you stuck in your current state, this audiobook will be extremely valuable to you. Your task is straightforward. Apply authority where passivity once lived. When your mind receives clear instruction, it adapts. When it experiences elevated emotion, it rewires. When it encounters new behavior, it updates its code. This script is engineered to create those moments deliberately. You are about to dismantle outdated programming and begin operating from a self you consciously choose, not one you inherited. This is not entertainment. This is not escapism. This is internal reconstruction. And it begins now. Chapter 1. Rewriting the internal command system. Every transformation begins with a decision, but not the kind most people make. Most people decide the way they daydream, loosely, conditionally, quietly, without any real consequence. They say yes, but leave back doors open. They commit in daylight and retreat in darkness. They treat decisions like suggestions. And because of that, their subconscious never receives a clear signal. Nothing changes, nothing adapts, nothing rewires. You are not here to play that game. You are here to execute the most powerful neurological interrupt available, the irreversible decision. When you make a decision with finality, the brain behaves differently. It stops negotiating with the past. It stops seeking alternatives. It stops distributing energy across conflicting possibilities. Instead, it directs its resources toward one singular trajectory. Your chosen one. That shift alone can change the architecture of your mind. A clear decision is not emotional. It is not dramatic. It is not impulsive. It is a cognitive command. It is you saying to your subconscious, "This is the new directive, adjust accordingly." And the subconscious does adjust because it is built to follow instructions. It has been following instructions your entire life, just not yours. It followed the instructions of your parents, your environment, Your past experiences, the fears you repeated, the stories you protected, and the identities you unconsciously reinforced. All of that was programming, and programming can be replaced. But it begins only when you decide, not when you want, not when you hope, not when you feel ready. When you decide. A real decision is an end point, not a wish. It is a door that locks behind you the moment you walk through it. It is you telling yourself with absolute clarity, I do not return to what I was. The subconscious responds to clarity, not ambiguity. When you say, I'll try, I hope, or I want, the subconscious receives no instruction. It interprets those words as uncertainty, and uncertainty is processed like a stalled command. Nothing moves, nothing updates. Your identity remains unchanged. But when you say, I decide, everything shifts. Think for a moment about how quickly you can redirect your entire nervous system when danger appears. One sound, one signal, one moment of absolute clarity can shift your breathing, pulse, posture, and awareness instantly. That is the power of decisive signals. Your brain knows exactly what to do when you instruct it with certainty. Transformation works the same way. You must give your subconscious a signal that is unmistakable. So right now, before we move further, choose the identity you are installing, not the goal, the identity. The version of you that executes behaviors effortlessly, the version you have postponed because you were waiting for the right time, the version you secretly know you are capable of becoming. State it internally with finality. No theatrics, no vague empowerment language. A simple, clear, non-negotiable declaration. I become this now. And when resistance rises, as it will, you override it with the same clarity. Resistance is not a sign that you are wrong. It is a sign that the old wiring is reacting to the threat of extinction. Systems resist change when they are no longer useful. Your job is to decide louder than your past patterns can argue. The subconscious cannot maintain two conflicting identities at once. Eventually, it will conform to the one you reinforce. Most people reinforce the older identity out of habit. You are reinforcing the new one out of intention. This is the difference between repeating your past and constructing your future. Understand this deeply. A clear decision forces the brain to adapt. It reorganizes its priorities. It reallocates emotional energy. It shifts perceptual filters. You begin to notice opportunities that support your new identity and ignore distractions that contradict it. You stop explaining your choices to others and start explaining them to yourself. You stop asking, "What if I fail?" and start asking, "What must be done next?" A decisive mind does not wander, it directs. This chapter is the foundation of the entire program. Every technique that follows, visualization, repetition, emotional coherence, new behaviors, relies on the decision you make here. Without a clear decision, the rest becomes entertainment. With it, the rest becomes architecture. Do not underestimate how rare this moment is. Most people will spend an entire lifetime avoiding decisions that require them to become someone new. They settle into the familiar because the familiar asks nothing of them. But you are here now, listening, engaged, alert, because you are done with familiar. You are done protecting an identity you have outgrown. You are ready to construct the one you were meant to inhabit. So decide. Decide clearly. Decide firmly. Decide without apology. Your subconscious is listening, and the moment you give it a command, it begins rewriting the code. This is your turning point. This is where the old identity loses authority. This is where the new identity takes command. This is where your transformation actually begins. Chapter 2. Building Identity Patterns. Now that the decision has been made, the kind that leaves no room for negotiation, you must give your subconscious a clear model to follow. A decision without a blueprint is just a command without structure. Visualization is the architecture you build around your choice. It is the design your mind will replicate, the pattern it will rehearse, the identity it will begin constructing through neural alignment. Most people misunderstand visualization because they treat it like fantasy. They use it for escape instead of engineering. They imagine grand outcomes disconnected from consistent behavior, disconnected from identity, disconnected from the discipline required to sustain transformation. That kind of visualization weakens the mind. It creates distance between who you are and who you wish you were. That is not the approach we take here. You are not using visualization to dream. You are using it to instruct. Your subconscious cannot distinguish between deeply imagined experience and lived experience. The brain fires the same circuits, releases similar chemical signatures, and reinforces similar pathways whether something happens in physical reality or internal reality. This means the identity you repeatedly visualize becomes the identity your subconscious begins to assume is real, present, and active. That is the power of this chapter. You are programming perception, physiology, and behavior at the same time. Begin by calling forth the identity you chose in the last section. Not a distant vision, not a hypothetical future, but a present state identity. See this version of yourself clearly, not as an ideal, but as a standard. Picture the way you move, the way you communicate, the level of precision you operate with. Watch yourself making decisions from a higher mindset, engaging with challenges from a place of capability rather than hesitation, and carrying yourself with authority instead of doubt. Your subconscious must witness this repeatedly until it accepts it as truth. Do not rush through this. Visualization is a deliberate act. Hold the image long enough that your nervous system begins to react. Pay attention to the shift in your breathing, the subtle changes in tension or relaxation in your posture, the way your internal dialogue sharpens and reorganizes itself. These are signs that your body is registering the identity as real. You are not merely imagining, you are conditioning. Your current patterns are entrenched because they have been rehearsed for years. You cannot overwrite them with weak imagery or passive imagination. You must rehearse the new identity with the same intensity, clarity, and repetition that created the old one. Identity is formed through familiarity, so make the new version familiar, make it recognizable, make it unavoidable. See yourself executing behaviors your old identity would hesitate to attempt. Visualize taking bold action without the internal friction that once held you back. Observe yourself engaging with goals that used to intimidate you and handling them with competence. The mind learns through repetition, but it transforms through emotional charge. So bring emotion into your visualization. Not a vague sense of excitement, but emotional certainty, confidence, conviction, capability, pride. The emotions that align with your new identity accelerate the neurological imprint you are creating. As you visualize, you are not pretending, you are rehearsing, you are constructing, you are giving your subconscious a new reference point to organize around. The old identity had years of reinforcement. The new identity will gain power through the consistency of your internal rehearsal. Notice the details, the facial expression of the person you are becoming, the way they breathe, the clarity in their eyes, the steadiness of their tone, the lack of hesitation in their choices. You must internalize these details because your subconscious stores identity not as abstract ideas, but as sensory and emotional patterns. Give it something sharp and specific to work with. This is not a one-time exercise. You are not here to casually visualize and hope something changes. You are here to install, to reinforce, to stabilize. Visualization is the bridge between decision and embodiment. You decide first, you visualize next, you act after. That is the sequence of transformation. When done with precision, visualization becomes the language through which the subconscious rewires itself. If you find resistance rising, doubt, impatience, discomfort, recognize that resistance as the echo of your previous identity. It is not true. It is a habit, and habits do not disappear because you want them gone. They fade because you stop feeding them and begin feeding something stronger. Keep your focus locked on the identity you have chosen. If resistance speaks, speak louder. If hesitation appears, clarify your command. You are not here to negotiate with your past conditioning. You are here to overwrite it, hold the image, strengthen it, reinforce it. Let the identity you visualize become more familiar than the identity you leave behind. You are building a future self through repeated internal rehearsal, and the more you rehearse, the more your subconscious accepts the new standard. This chapter is not about imagining what could be, it is about defining what will be. Your subconscious follows the imagery you present with clarity and conviction. You are no longer dreaming, you are programming. Chapter 3. Installing mental code. Repetition is the engine of the subconscious. Nothing imprints without it. Nothing transforms without it. Nothing becomes automatic, instinctive, or effortless unless it is rehearsed. The subconscious is a pattern amplification system. It learns what you repeat. It strengthens what you reinforce. It obeys what you internalize through consistent exposure. If you repeat doubt, fear, insecurity, and hesitation, your subconscious will build an identity around those patterns. If you repeat conviction, discipline, clarity, and capability, it will do the same. The system is neutral. It is not for you or against you. It simply magnifies whatever you present to it most consistently. Your job is to take control of that process. Affirmations, when understood correctly, are not motivational slogans. They are not positive thinking exercises. They are identity commands delivered through repetition. Most people misuse affirmations by framing them in a tone that lacks authority. They recite phrases without emotion, without conviction, without alignment, without the energetic force required to make the subconscious respond. They speak like someone hoping to change, not like someone directing change. And the subconscious ignores them because the subconscious does not respond to weak signals. Your affirmations must be identity-based, decisive, and emotionally congruent. They must speak from the position of the person you are becoming, not the person you are leaving behind. When you say, "I am disciplined," the tone cannot be wishful. It must be precise. When you say, "I am focused," your body must align with that statement. When you say, "I execute," there must be no hesitation. The subconscious recognizes consistency and emotional certainty. It is wired to adopt whatever is repeated with intensity, clarity, and frequency. Repetition builds truth. It does so through a simple neurological mechanism. When neurons fire together repeatedly, they form stronger connections. When connections strengthen, beliefs form. When beliefs form, behaviors follow, and when behaviors follow, identity becomes self-sustaining. This is the chain you are activating. You are taking advantage of the same process that built your old patterns, except now you are using it deliberately. The affirmations you choose must align with the identity you visualized in the previous chapter. You are reinforcing the same image, but now with language. The mind absorbs language differently from imagery, and when both are aligned, the subconscious adapts rapidly. You are building an internal chorus that speaks the identity into existence. Every repetition is a signal. Every signal is a command. Every command is a step toward rewiring. The key here is not volume. It is consistency. A single affirmation repeated once is meaningless. An affirmation repeated daily, delivered with authority, becomes architecture. The subconscious does not learn through intensity alone. It learns through pattern recognition. It learns through reinforcement. It learns through the messages you deliver repeatedly, especially when those messages carry emotional weight. This is why emotional congruence matters. If the words you speak do not match the emotional state you generate, the subconscious becomes confused and defaults to the stronger of the two signals. Emotion will always outrank language. If you say, "I am confident," but feel fear, the subconscious reinforces fear. If you say, "I am capable," but feel small, the subconscious reinforces limitation. This is not a flaw. It is a survival mechanism. The subconscious prioritizes emotional cues because they are historically related to safety. You override that pattern not by suppressing emotion, but by elevating it. You speak your affirmations from a place of certainty, strength, and conviction. Elevate your tone, elevate your posture, elevate your breathing. When your physiology aligns with your statements, your subconscious has no reason to reject them. Repetition is the moment where your new identity shifts from conceptual to practical. In the beginning, the old patterns will feel stronger. They have years of rehearsal behind them. They feel familiar. They feel true, not because they are true, but because they have been repeated into permanence. Your affirmations must challenge that familiarity. You are not whispering new beliefs into the void. You are installing new commands into a system that is listening closely. With every repetition, you weaken the old identity and strengthen the new one. Neural dominance shifts, emotional baselines shift, behavioral impulses shift. The subconscious begins to reorganize its hierarchy. There is a moment in this process when your new affirmations stop feeling forced and start feeling natural. This moment will arrive sooner than you expect. It is the point where the subconscious accepts the new identity as the stronger pattern. When this happens, you will feel an internal shift, subtle but undeniable. You will catch yourself thinking differently without effort. Behaviors that used to require willpower will occur naturally. Doubts that used to trigger hesitation will lose their power. This is the sign that your repetitions have taken root. Remember this fundamental truth. The subconscious follows whatever you expose it to most consistently. If you repeat limitations, it reinforces limitations. If you repeat a capability, it reinforces the capability. You are not fighting your mind. You are training it. You are not hoping it listens. You are ensuring it learns. With every repetition, you are instructing your subconscious to leave the old identity behind and adopt the new one as its default operating mode. This chapter is not about saying words. It is about issuing commands. Speak as the person you have chosen to become, until that person is no longer a choice, but the only version of you the subconscious recognizes. Chapter 4. Expanding the Identity Boundary. Every meaningful transformation requires you to confront a single, unavoidable truth. The identity you are becoming does not exist inside the boundaries of what you already know. Everything familiar belongs to who you have been, not who you are becoming. The future you intend to build requires you to step beyond the edges of your current map, into territory that feels uncertain, unstructured, and unpredictable. Most people avoid this place because it threatens their sense of control. You will do the opposite. You will step into the unknown with authority, because the unknown is where your subconscious rewires at the fastest rate. Your old identity is built on predictability. It survives only when you behave in ways it can anticipate. When you step into situations it cannot predict, you create a disruption, a breach in its continuity. That disruption is not a threat. It is the exact pressure required to break outdated neural patterns. Uncertainty forces the brain to adapt. Adaptation is the foundation of neuroplasticity, and neuroplasticity is the mechanism through which new identities are formed. Most people cling to the familiar because it offers the illusion of safety. They repeat the same routines, tell the same stories, make the same excuses, and rehearse the same fears because it keeps them inside a psychological environment they understand. Even misery can feel safe if it is familiar. But familiarity is not your ally. It is the anchor that keeps you tied to your old programming. The unknown is the place where your subconscious cannot rely on its old scripts, which means it must build new ones. This is why you must embrace it deliberately. When you move into the unknown, your internal alarms may activate. Your mind might offer warnings, excuses, or rationalizations. This is simply your past identity trying to protect itself. It has nothing to do with truth. It has everything to do with preservation. The subconscious does not like uncertainty because uncertainty demands change, and change threatens the existing hierarchy of patterns. You must understand that fear, hesitation, and doubt are not signs that you are on the wrong path. They are signs that you are leaving the old path behind. Your task is not to eliminate fear. Your task is to override it. You override it by giving your subconscious a stronger signal, one rooted in decision, clarity, and the identity you are now committed to becoming. Fear is a reflex of the old self. Authority is the response of the new one. The moment you feel uncertainty, you step forward, not back. You move through discomfort, not around it. You teach your mind that you will not retreat to safety, simply because the old identity demands it. There is a moment in transformation when the ground beneath you feels unstable. You have left your old patterns, but the new ones are not yet fully installed. This is the threshold. Most people retreat here because they misinterpret instability as danger. But instability is simply the brain reorganizing. It is a sign that your subconscious is breaking its old patterns and searching for new ones. If you retreat, the brain returns to what it knows. If you continue, it constructs new neural pathways to match your behavior. Keep moving. The unknown is not a void. It is a territory that reorganizes itself around your decisions. As you step into unfamiliar situations, new goals, new habits, new thoughts, new behaviors, you force your brain to adapt. Each adaptation is a small rewiring. Each rewiring disrupts the dominance of your old identity, and every disruption is a victory. The unknown becomes less intimidating each time you engage with it. Confidence is built not through avoiding uncertainty, but through proving to yourself repeatedly that you can navigate it. In the unknown, your attention sharpens, your senses heighten, your internal dialogue becomes clearer. This is not anxiety, it is activation. You are stepping into a higher state of consciousness because your brain is searching for new patterns, new solutions, new pathways. This heightened state is where breakthroughs occur. You cannot create a new identity from the comfort of routine. You create it by exposing yourself to conditions that demand a new version of you. You will notice something as you continue this process. The unknown begins to feel less chaotic and more empowering. You start to see that uncertainty is not a threat, but a catalyst. It becomes a field of opportunity, not danger. Your subconscious begins to recognize that you are not a victim of unpredictability. You are a force moving through it. When this realization sets in, the unknown becomes your training ground. It becomes the place where your future self is forged. Every time you choose the unknown over the familiar, you reinforce a belief: I can handle what comes. And this belief becomes a powerful identity anchor. Your confidence no longer relies on predictability. It becomes rooted in capability. You are no longer controlled by external conditions because you have proven to yourself that you can navigate any environment. This is the hallmark of a reprogrammed subconscious. It responds to uncertainty with adaptation, not fear. The old identity wants stability. The new identity thrives in expansion. By embracing the unknown, you shift from survival mode into creation mode. The world stops feeling like something you must manage and becomes something you can shape. And as you step repeatedly into uncertainty with authority, the subconscious learns to trust you. It learns to follow your commands, not your fears. The unknown is not your enemy. It is your evolution. Walk into it with clarity. Walk into it with confidence. Walk into it as the identity you have already claimed. Chapter 5. Integration Mode. There is a point in every transformation where the mind must release its grip, a point where control becomes interference, where effort becomes resistance, and where focus becomes a barrier instead of a tool. Up to this moment, you have used precision, clarity, intention, and directed imagery to reshape the inner landscape. But now you must learn a different skill, the ability to step back, widen your awareness, and let the subconscious reorganize itself without your interference. This is the power of unfocusing. Unfocusing is not laziness. It is not disengagement. It is not mental drift in the passive sense. It is a strategic expansion of awareness. It is the deliberate release of narrow attention so the brain can integrate new information, dissolve old tension patterns, and create connections that are impossible to form under rigid concentration. You are not shutting down. You are opening up. Most people misunderstand what clarity requires. They believe it demands constant mental pressure, constant discipline, and constant thinking. They try to force breakthroughs by tightening their attention. But the brain does not operate that way. Insight emerges in spaciousness, not strain. Creativity arises when attention relaxes, not when it constricts. Neuroplasticity accelerates when the mind is allowed to drift, explore, and reorganize without interference. If focus builds the structure, unfocusing allows it to settle and solidify. The subconscious is always processing, sorting, filtering, reorganizing, recalibrating. But it works most effectively when the conscious mind steps aside. When you release your internal grip, you allow the deeper layers of your mind to reformat themselves. This process mirrors the natural rhythms of learning. You concentrate, you absorb, you release, and the release is what converts information into transformation. Without the release, the brain remains overloaded, stuck in analysis, rigid in its patterns. Unfocusing clears the mental field. You may have experienced this phenomenon countless times without recognizing it. Those moments when answers arrive not while you are thinking hard, but while you are walking, showering, driving, or resting. The solution emerges when you are not searching for it. That is unfocusing at work. It is the subconscious delivering results once the conscious mind stops interfering. You are now learning to trigger that state intentionally. Begin by softening your internal stance. Let go of the mental pressure you have been applying. Instead of directing your thoughts, allow them to widen. Expand your awareness beyond your internal dialogue. Observe the space around you. Notice the subtle sensations in your body without trying to interpret them. Feel your breath moving in and out, not as a technique, but as a simple observation. Let the edges of your focus blur. This widening of awareness is the opposite of dissociation. You are not detaching from your body or drifting away from yourself. You are expanding into yourself. You are allowing your mind to operate without the interference of constant direction. This is what mental spaciousness feels like. An open, quiet, receptive state where the unnecessary drops away and what matters rises naturally. In this state, the subconscious begins its work. It processes the decision you made. It integrates the visualization you constructed. It reinforces the affirmations you repeated. It examines the unknown you stepped into. It rearranges patterns, reorganizes meaning, and searches for coherence. You do not have to witness this process for it to occur. You only have to allow it. Unfocusing is essential because the subconscious cannot rewire itself under tension. Tension signals a threat. Threat activates survival modes. Survival modes prioritize old patterns because old patterns feel safer. You must step out of tension to make your mind receptive to change. When you unfocus, you remove resistance, and the brain becomes responsive, pliable, and adaptive. You create the internal environment where transformation settles into the system. There is a reason why the world's greatest thinkers, creators, and performers value stillness. They understand that effort sharpens the mind, but stillness deepens it. They understand that breakthroughs emerge in the spaces between thoughts, not in the thoughts themselves. They understand that allowing the mind to breathe is not weakness, but strategic intelligence. You are not abandoning your discipline, you are complementing it. If focus is the command, unfocusing is the surrender that allows the command to take root. You are not giving up control, you are shifting the type of control you exert. You are controlling the environment, not the outcome. You are choosing receptivity instead of force, openness instead of rigidity, expansion instead of contraction. This is what a reprogrammed subconscious requires. As your awareness widens, you may notice subtle shifts, moments of clarity rising unexpectedly, emotional tension dissolving, internal noise quieting. These shifts are not accidents. They are signs that your subconscious is reorganizing itself efficiently. When the conscious mind steps back, the subconscious steps forward. It begins guiding you rather than reacting to you. It begins offering solutions rather than replaying limitations. It begins operating from the identity you chose rather than the identity you inherited. This chapter is the quiet power of transformation, the spacious strength, the calm authority. Unfocusing is not passive, it is an intentional allowance. It is the disciplined act of trusting the mechanisms you have activated. You have given your mind commands. Now you must let those commands settle into the deeper layers of your identity. Do not underestimate this moment. Stillness is not empty, it is integration. Silence is not idle, it is recalibration. Unfocusing is not the absence, it is evolution. Let the subconscious reorganize, let the identity reshape itself, let the transformation take hold beneath your awareness. Chapter 6. Cognitive Expansion. There is a dimension of transformation that logic alone cannot reach. You can decide with clarity. You can visualize with precision. You can repeat affirmations with discipline. You can step into uncertainty with courage. You can release your mental grip and allow integration through unfocusing. But there is a layer of the subconscious that only responds to creation. The part of you that communicates in symbols, Images, emotions, movement, sound, and metaphor. This is the realm of art, and it holds a power most people underestimate. Art is not simply an expression. Art is identity made visible. It is the translation of internal truth into external form. And when you create from the identity you are becoming, you reinforce that identity with unparalleled force. You give the subconscious something tangible, something memorable, something it can attach meaning to. The subconscious learns through imagery and emotion. Art gives it both simultaneously. Most people are disconnected from their creative instincts because creativity threatens their old identity. Creativity requires openness, vulnerability, exploration, qualities that disrupt rigid patterns. The old identity prefers repetition, predictability, and fixed roles. But creation destroys stagnation. When you create, you break the loop of predictability. You give your mind permission to explore new neural pathways. You awaken parts of your brain that have been dormant. You unlock perspectives that cannot be accessed through logic alone. This chapter is not about becoming an artist. It is about using the act of creation as a mechanism for psychological expansion. When you create, your mind steps out of survival mode. It enters a state of possibility. It becomes receptive to new meaning, new interpretations, and new emotional states. You're not trying to produce something beautiful, you are producing something new, and the newness itself is the medicine. Consider what happens when a child draws. They do not think about correctness. They do not judge their output. They do not care about perfection. They create because creation is the most natural extension of their inner world. The subconscious of a child is open, fluid, and receptive. They have not yet built the rigid structures that adults cling to. When you return to creative acts, even in the smallest form, you tap back into that fluidity. You re-enter the state where the subconscious is easiest to influence. Art is not limited to drawing or painting. Anything that brings a new form into existence qualifies. Words, sounds, symbols, gestures, shapes, movements, colors. Creation is simply the externalization of internal evolution. You can write, you can sketch, you can shape, you can build, you can design, you can imagine. What matters is not the medium. What matters is that you are generating something that did not exist before, something that reflects the identity you are stepping into. At this stage in your transformation, creation plays a critical role. You have decided who you are becoming. You have visualized this identity. You have begun to install it through repetition. You have stepped into uncertainty and allowed integration through unfocusing. Now, creation allows you to embody the new identity by giving it form. This is where the subconscious begins to see evidence. No external evidence in the world, but internal evidence that you are producing from a new internal source. When you create, your subconscious cannot deny that something is shifting. It sees the output, it witnesses the evolution. It begins to accept that your new identity is not theoretical, it is active. This is why creativity accelerates transformation. It is behavior that validates belief. It is an action that confirms identity. Creation becomes a mirror reflecting your internal shift in real time. As you enter this chapter, let go of the idea that you must produce something impressive. The goal is not mastery. The goal is movement. You are not trying to achieve aesthetic perfection. You are trying to communicate with your subconscious in a language it understands. A symbol, a phrase, a shape, a rhythm. Anything you create becomes a signal. Each signal reinforces the identity you are installing. Imagine, for a moment, creating a visual representation of the identity you are becoming. It might be a symbol that captures your clarity, a shape that represents your discipline, a color that reflects your conviction, a gesture that embodies your new emotional state. You are not illustrating your old self. You are illustrating your future. And as you do, your subconscious absorbs the message with a depth that words cannot reach. Feel the shift as you imagine creating from your new identity. Notice how your posture changes, how your breathing steadies, how your mind opens. Creation demands presence, it demands intention, it demands alignment. You cannot create from an identity you do not accept, so the act of creating becomes an act of acceptance. This is the purpose of art in transformation. It is not decoration, it is confirmation. It is the moment when the subconscious sees proof of who you are becoming, not through language or logic, but through expression. And because that expression comes from you, not from instruction, not from repetition, but from your own internal impulse, it becomes one of the most powerful signals your subconscious can receive. Your creativity does not need to be profound. It needs to be authentic. It needs to come from the identity you are choosing. Every creation becomes a declaration. This is who I am now. It is the embodiment of your transformation in symbolic form. Creation is evolution made visible. Let your subconscious witness your evolution. Create without restraint. Create without judgment. Create the identity you are now becoming. Chapter 7. Behavioral Rewiring. Every transformation reaches a moment where internal work must translate into external reality. Decision shapes intention. Visualization constructs identity. Repetition rewires internal language. Embracing the unknown builds capacity. Unfocusing integrates the new architecture. Creativity expands the mind's flexibility. But none of these fully solidify until you step into new experiences, until you behave in ways that the old identity would never dare to attempt. This is the moment where transformation becomes irreversible. The subconscious mind anchors itself in what you do, not what you think. Thoughts create possibilities. Actions create proof. And the subconscious trusts proof above everything else. You can affirm a new identity, visualize it, feel it, and speak it. But the moment you behave differently, you send the most powerful message possible. This is who I am now. Behavior overrides internal hesitation because action is undeniable. The subconscious does not argue with what you do, it adapts to it. New experiences act like lightning strikes inside the neural landscape. They disrupt old wiring immediately because the brain is forced to respond to conditions it cannot predict using past patterns. When you take a new action, whether bold, uncomfortable, disciplined, or unfamiliar, the mind must adjust. It cannot rely on habit. It must create new pathways. This is the essence of reprogramming. New experience equals new circuitry. Most people avoid new experiences because they threaten the stability of their identity. They fear embarrassment, incompetence, discomfort, unpredictability, and exposure. Their subconscious uses these fears to convince them that staying the same is safer than growing. But safety is not the objective here. Evolution is. Safety maintains your old identity. New experiences build a new identity. You cannot become someone different while doing everything the same. Look carefully at your life, and you will see how your identity is mirrored in your behaviors, the routines you repeat, the conversations you tolerate, the risks you avoid, the habits you cling to. All of these are footprints of who you were. But you are no longer reinforcing that version of yourself. You are moving into the identity you chose in Chapter 1, the identity you visualized, the identity you affirmed. Now, you must behave as that identity behaves. A new experience does not need to be enormous. It must be aligned. It must be intentional. It must come from the future identity, not the past one. Even a small action can produce massive internal shifts if it contradicts your old identity. making a decisive phone call you've avoided, speaking with authority when you would have stayed silent, choosing discipline where you once chose distraction, taking a risk your old self would never entertain. These moments become emotional anchors. The subconscious sees the contradiction, recognizes that the old pattern was broken, and begins restructuring its internal map. Notice what happens in the body when you step into a new experience. There may be tension at first. That tension is the residue of your old identity resisting extinction. But as soon as you move through it, a surge of clarity appears. The identity you are stepping into feels more real, more solid, more attainable. The subconscious starts to shift from, "I don't know if we can do this," to, "This is what we do now." That shift is the beginning of embodiment. New experiences also expand your sense of possibility. When you behave differently, the world responds differently. People treat you in new ways. Opportunities appear that were invisible before. Doors that once stayed closed begin to open, not because the world changed, but because you did. Your external environment rearranges itself around who you are becoming. The subconscious takes note of this feedback and incorporates it into its understanding of what is possible. Possibility becomes part of your identity. Each new experience is a statement. It is an interruption. It is a command. You are telling your subconscious, "This is my standard. This is my behavior. This is what I do now." The more often you behave in alignment with your future identity, the faster the subconscious lets go of your past one. Behavior is the proof that the subconscious cannot ignore. There will be moments where you hesitate. That hesitation is natural. It does not mean you are weak. It means you are stepping into territory where your old identity has no instruction manual. That is exactly where you need to be. If an experience feels slightly uncomfortable, it is likely the right one. Growth hides behind discomfort. Confidence is built by doing things before you feel ready. Readiness is not a prerequisite. It is a result. This chapter is about action, not theory. You cannot think yourself into transformation. You must behave your way into it. Every new experience, no matter how small, solidifies your new identity. Every time you act in alignment with your future self, you cut ties with the past self. You are building momentum. You are building credibility with your subconscious. You are proving that your new identity is not a concept, but a reality. The key is consistency. One new experience will spark change. Many will cement it. The more frequently you act from your future identity, the more rapidly your subconscious restructures itself. Over time, these new behaviors become natural, instinctive, automatic, the same way your old patterns once were. This is when transformation becomes permanent. Understand this deeply. The subconscious cannot resist new experiences executed with intention. It must adapt. It must rewire. It must evolve. You are not waiting for change. You are initiating it through decisive action. You are not hoping for a new identity. You are behaving as it. Every new experience is evidence. Every experience is an evolution. Every experience is an instruction. Speak as the future identity. Move as the future identity. Behave as the future identity. And the subconscious will follow. Chapter 8. Emotional Coherence. There is a layer of transformation deeper than thought, deeper than decision, deeper than repetition or behavior. It is the emotional core, the center of your internal chemistry, the space where your subconscious draws meaning, significance, and truth. You can direct your mind with clarity and discipline, but if your heart remains anchored in old emotional patterns, fear, doubt, resentment, guilt, inadequacy, the subconscious will continue to prioritize the past over the future. The feelings you rehearse determine the reality you produce. and this chapter is where you learn to command the emotional dimension of your identity. Your subconscious listens to emotion more than language. Emotion is the currency of meaning. It is the signal that tells your brain whether an experience should be reinforced or discarded. When an emotion is repeated, the subconscious assumes it is important, and it reorganizes your inner world around it. You have been shaped by the emotions you felt most often, not the strongest emotions, those come and go, but the most frequent ones. Think for a moment. What emotional states have dominated your life until now? What did you rehearse repeatedly? Did you rehearse uncertainty? Did you rehearse self-doubt? Did you rehearse a quiet sense of not being enough? Did you rehearse compliance or guilt or fear of judgment? These states become emotional habits, and emotional habits become identity. You are not fighting events. You are fighting rehearsed emotional patterns, and now you will replace them. The heart, in this context, is not a symbol of sentimentality. It is a center of coherence, a generator of emotional alignment. When your heart produces elevated emotion, gratitude, courage, pride, resilience, certainty, the subconscious becomes more plastic, more receptive, more willing to adopt new programming. Emotion is the permission slip for transformation. Without it, the mind stays rigid. With it, the mind becomes flexible. You must learn to generate elevated emotion intentionally, not reactively. You must become the source, not the result. Most people wait for life to give them a reason to feel powerful, confident, deserving, and grateful. You cannot wait. You must create the emotional state first, and then allow your life to rise to meet it. Your emotions must come from identity, not circumstance. This is how leaders operate. This is how creators operate. This is how transformed individuals maintain their new operating system. Begin by recognizing the emotional state of the identity you are becoming. How does that identity feel? Not what do they think, not what do they do. How do they feel? A person who operates with discipline feels internally steady. A person who communicates with clarity feels internally certain. A person who takes bold action feels internally empowered. A person who maintains high standards feels internally grounded. You must embody the feeling before the identity can stabilize. Bring that emotional state into your body now. Do not wait for external validation. The subconscious does not require evidence. It requires immersion. It requires you to step into the feeling as though it is already the baseline of who you are. Sit in it, hold it, intensify it. Let your breath reflect it. Let your posture reflect it. Let your awareness expand with it. When you generate elevated emotion, the subconscious receives a message. This is our new internal environment. The old emotional patterns lose their authority because the nervous system is no longer feeding them. Emotional patterns die from neglect. They survive only when you continue to rehearse them. You remove their power by refusing to return to them, by refusing to anchor your identity in them, by replacing them with emotional states that match your future instead of your past. Your heart is not simply responding to your transformation, it is powering it. Emotion amplifies belief. Emotion cements identity. Emotion accelerates neuroplasticity. When your chosen identity is paired with elevated emotion, the subconscious accepts it rapidly because emotion signals urgency. It signals importance. It signals relevance. Your inner world reorganizes around what you feel consistently. This is why gratitude is such a powerful tool, not because it is spiritual or comforting, but because it rapidly shifts the body into a coherent state where the mind becomes receptive. Gratitude lowers resistance. It dissolves the internal tension that keeps you anchored in the past. It quiets the survival signals that block transformation. When the heart is coherent, the mind becomes obedient. But gratitude is only one emotional tool. You must also cultivate pride. Not arrogance, but the quiet recognition of your strength, your resolve, your capability. Feel proud of the identity you are becoming. Feel proud of the decisions you have made, the behaviors you have adopted, the discomfort you have walked through. Pride aligns you with your potential. You must also cultivate courage, not the absence of fear, but mastery over it. Courage tells the subconscious that you no longer accept fear as your compass, and you must cultivate certainty, not the illusion that you know the outcome, but the inner stance that you can handle whatever the outcome becomes. Certainty is a signal of internal authority. When you combine these emotional states, gratitude, pride, courage, certainty, you create the emotional environment of your new identity. And the subconscious responds immediately. Its job is not to judge your emotions. Its job is to adapt to them. If you live in elevated emotion, it will reinforce patterns aligned with elevation. If you live in constricted emotion, it will reinforce patterns aligned with contraction. Your heart is the stabilizer of your transformation. It is the emotional power source that makes your identity real, not theoretical. When you generate emotion from within, you become self-directed, self-resourced, and self-governed. You stop waiting for life to confirm your identity because you already feel it internally, and once you feel it, the subconscious accepts it as truth. This chapter is the emotional integration of everything you have built so far. Let your heart power your transformation. Let your emotional state match the identity you have chosen. Feel the future inside your body, and your subconscious will follow it without hesitation. Chapter 9. Identity Installation. Every identity is anchored not in behavior, not in desire, not in intention, but in belief. Belief is the foundation of all internal architecture, the subconscious blueprint that determines what you attempt, what you avoid, what you tolerate, and what you refuse. A belief is not an intellectual opinion. It is a neuro-emotional imprint that guides your automatic responses long before your conscious mind catches up. If you do not consciously choose your beliefs, you inherit them, imitate them, or absorb them from the loudest voices around you. You are here now to stop inheriting and start engineering. A belief, at its core, is a conclusion reinforced through repetition and emotion. You are not born believing you cannot succeed, that you are unworthy, that you must fear the unknown, that you are defined by your past, or that you are limited. These were installed through repeated experiences and emotional patterns, some subtle, some sharp, but all persistent. The subconscious accepted them because they were familiar. What is familiar becomes true. This is why you must now deliberately create new familiarity. To seed new beliefs, you must begin by identifying the belief that has been quietly directing your life from the background. Often, it is not the one that shouts. It is the one that whispers. It is the belief beneath the hesitation, the belief beneath the fear, the belief beneath the self-limiting behaviors you haven't been able to shake. That belief has been the invisible architect of your old identity. It is the reason you stayed in certain patterns long after outgrowing them. It is the reason you repeated behaviors that contradicted your potential. It is the reason you filtered opportunities through doubt instead of capability. But that belief only holds power because it has never been questioned, challenged, or replaced. That ends now. The moment you bring a limiting belief into conscious awareness, it loses its authority. The subconscious depends on secrecy. It depends on you not examining the roots of your reactions. When you expose a belief to inspection, it weakens. When you question it, it fractures. When you contradict it through visualization, repetition, new experiences, and emotional elevation, as you have throughout these chapters, it becomes incompatible with your new identity. Your task now is to complete the transition. Remove the old belief from the foundation and install a new one in its place. To seed a new belief, speak it internally with the same clarity that defined your decision in Chapter 1. A belief is not a wish. It is not a hope. It is not something you test to see if it works. It is a declaration, simple, precise, non-negotiable. The subconscious needs a belief that matches the identity you have spent this entire process constructing. A belief that aligns with your capabilities, your emotional coherence, your behaviors, your visualization, and your future. The belief must reinforce everything you have built, not contradict it. Choose a belief that strengthens your identity rather than weakens it. Something foundational, not decorative. Something structural, not motivational. A belief like, I become the person I decide to be, or I execute powerfully and consistently, or I am built for growth, or my mind follows my command, or I am capable beyond my previous limits. These are not affirmations, they are identity truths. When spoken with conviction and repeated consistently, they reshape the subconscious landscape. To seed a belief, you must also attach emotion to it. The subconscious does not adopt beliefs because they sound good. It adopts beliefs because they feel true. And truth is established by emotional resonance. When you state your new belief, generate the emotional tone that matches it: certainty, empowerment, steadiness, pride, clarity. When the emotional state matches the statement, the belief embeds deeply. The subconscious becomes receptive. It begins by reorganizing your internal architecture around this new foundation. Understand this clearly. A belief is strengthened every time you think in alignment with it, act in alignment with it, visualize from it, and feel it in your body. A belief becomes dominant only through repetition and embodiment. You are not installing a single sentence. You are installing a new internal logic, a logic that will determine how you respond to challenges, how you interpret setbacks, how you approach opportunities, and how you perceive yourself. Once a belief takes root, everything else shifts. Fear loses its leverage because it no longer aligns with your internal truth. Doubt loses its credibility because it becomes inconsistent with your identity. Hesitation becomes unnecessary because the belief supports immediate action. Patterns that once felt immovable weaken and dissolve. You begin operating from a new psychological baseline, one defined not by your past, but by your chosen future. Beliefs determine direction. They determine the possibility. They determine the ceiling of your potential and the floor of your standards. When you choose your beliefs deliberately, you become the architect of your destiny instead of the product of your history. You stop reenacting old emotions and start generating new ones. You stop performing outdated identities and start embodying your true capacity. You stop seeking evidence that you can succeed and start behaving as someone for whom success is the logical conclusion. This chapter marks the completion of your internal reconstruction. You have disrupted the old identity, replaced its components, strengthened new patterns, expanded your emotional range, and stepped into new experiences. Now you anchor all of it with a new belief, one that gives coherence and stability to everything you have built. This belief is not temporary, it is not experimental, it is permanent. It guides you now, it defines you now. Seed the belief, feel it, embody it, live from it, This is where identity stops being something you create and becomes something you are. Epilogue. Live the upgrade. You have walked through every layer of reprogramming: decision, vision, repetition, uncertainty, spaciousness, creativity, action, emotion, and belief. Each chapter dismantles a piece of the identity you once carried and replaces it with the architecture of the identity you have chosen. You have not merely learned these principles, you have activated them. You have not simply listened, you have transformed. Now, the responsibility shifts to you. The subconscious does not resist clarity. It resists inconsistency. It resists hesitation. It resists retreat. But when you show up with certainty, with repetition, with belief-backed behavior, the subconscious reorganizes itself around your authority. You are no longer operating as someone shaped by the past. You are operating as someone constructing the future. From this point forward, every thought you reinforce, every action you take, every emotion you generate, and every belief you embody will either strengthen the new identity or feed the old one. There is no neutrality. There is no pause. There is only alignment or misalignment. Choose alignment. You are not the person who began this journey. You have disrupted the automatic patterns that once defined you. You have installed new commands, elevated your emotional baseline, behaved beyond your past boundaries, and replaced limiting beliefs with empowered truth. This is not potential, it is identity. This is not preparation, it is execution. Walk forward now as the upgraded version of yourself. Do not look back for confirmation. Do not search for permission. You have rebuilt the internal system. You have rewritten the code. Live as the person you have become. Your transformation is not ahead of you. Your transformation is already you.